I'm going to call our meeting back to order at 1:12, and we're going to start with our interim animal control director and chief or deputy. I get your title mixed up. Stephen Carter.
Good afternoon, Board. Interim Animal Control Director and Assistant County Administrative Officer. So I'll start off with the accomplishments for 2025. We did renovate the livestock area for when a disaster hits. At the bottom of our property, the things were dilapidated, got that fixed by NCO, and it's all looking good down there. And then also, we did get a UC Davis grant. We did spend it all. About 500 spay and neuters were done. We did attempt to get a new grant for this coming up year, but we were actually declined, so we're working on a different funding source. And as staffing goes, currently we're at 21% vacancy if you consider our full-time and part-time FTEs, which is only 3 vacancies because we only have 14 actual positions. This information isn't exactly up there. But as of the end of February, we will be at a 7% vacancy because the animal control director, as you guys are aware, is about to start, and also our animal control officer vacancy, which is for Copter, is about to start in 2 weeks. So we'll only have 1 vacancy, which is the deputy. So here is the updated figures, which I also gave everybody a handout. So the cases filed have gone up year over year, but the intakes have gone down. The most important is our outcomes. The adoptions have gone up to 308, and not so good, the return to owner went down at only 179, and other rescue types are 316. And the euthanasia has gone down immensely. If I recall correctly, almost 300 down. So euthanasia is 382 for 2025. It was 638 last time. So that is far less. We're having a lot better live outcomes. And vaccine clinics held is 0. That's not very good, but we didn't have an RVT, which that is actually important to say as well. We do have an RVT on staff now, so certain things like vaccine clinic can now happen, and we had our first one in January. We plan on having at least 1 vaccine clinic every single month again. And once that gets up and running, planning potentially 2 times a week. We used to have it once a week.
Would that be around the county or just at that location?
It's at our location currently, and it's before we open at 11. So our doors open at 11, but it would be at 9 or 10 in the morning.
Okay, thank you.
So our staff can actually, on their normal duties, be able to.
Thank you.
And Mr. Carter, those clinics, 2025 data, was that fiscal year or calendar?
Calendar.
Or a calendar, okay, thank you.
And the points of emphasis for 2026. So we're still working on our policies and procedures related to the annex and overall disasters. We do have a final draft, so hopefully that should be done in the next few months. Capital improvements, since I've been there, we plan on doing an actual paved road down to the pens for the disaster. And there's a plan in between the 2 buildings. There's actually going to be a play area created for the animals so that there's enrichment instead of just being in a kennel all the time, which we might have other funding for, but as of right now, it's in our budget. We are obviously still trying to secure a veterinarian, since that's very difficult. It's also very expensive to use outside vets, but we are continuing trying to hire. And as of January 5th, we also started on-call again for the officers. So there will always be 1 animal control officer on call where dispatch or someone can call. They are going to mainly answer to emergencies rather than just like a stray animal, because there's also a 3-hour call out for any kind of call out. But that should help quite a bit, and I know the community has probably wanted that for a while. And the copter officer is the one that will be here in a couple weeks to start helping out that project. And in mid-year, we'll also be asking for a new truck and box because we only have enough for our current officers. And that's required for the position. Okay. And on February 14th, on Valentine's Day, we are going to have a free adoptions day. And it's going to be at the shelter. And a flyer will come out 2/1, February 1st. And that's, the data set should be the same next year unless your board has something different. And that's all I have for now.
Any questions from the board or further comments? Seeing none, we thank you for the report and the presentation. Or did you have a question? Yes, Supervisor Peiss.
And thank you for your leadership. I'm sure you're getting excited to go back to your permanent role, but we really needed you during this time and really, really appreciative for all the work that you've done and the leadership that you've shown over at Animal Care and Control.
Thank you, trying hard.
Supervisor Owen.
Yes, would you be able next year possibly to add stats for livestock, horses and livestock?
I can't say positive yes, but I will absolutely look into it.
Perfect, thank you.
And I will say that we did just recently have 3 horses,
I knew that, that's why I'd asked.
and they are all out in good circumstances.
Perfect.
And we get pigs and things quite often.
Mm-hmm.
Is the rooster still there?
I recall hearing it recently, but I can't say as of right now, but I think so.
Is that your rooster?
No.
Anything
take that
further
notice
from the
down.
board?
Thank you.
Not seeing any?
And close your eyes if you're online, I'm going to IT.
Yeah.
Oh, did I?
We'll go ahead and call up our IT Director, Shane French.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. All this jumping around. Whoops. All this jumping around.
I think I could probably handle it. We'll see in a minute. Good afternoon, Board. I'm Shane French, IT Director for the County of Lake. So this year, we have some accomplishments. We finished up our migration of departments to the Office 365 platform. All county employees are now on that platform for all their email and Office Suite and a handful of other services there. We made some improvements in our data center infrastructure, and basically what that means is some refreshes of server hardware, storage hardware, networking, all the stuff that allows employees to get on in the morning and start doing their work. You may know that with this Windows 11 operating system, there's kind of like a life cycle for all these softwares, and we have to essentially retire out operating systems that are no longer under support by the manufacturer. So that involved either replacing hardware or upgrading existing computer operating system, and we completed that this year. Actually, I think we have like a handful of computers somewhere in a closet that somebody can't find that we need to finish up, but we're just about done with that one. We also implemented some changes to the website that ensure compliance with the ADA. There's been some compliance enhancements that have come out that require some additional feature sets on your website in terms of low visibility and text size and just a bunch of other things that make the site more accessible for a wider audience. As far as our metrics, we track how many endpoints, and what I mean by endpoints is essentially the computers, devices that employees use to do their work. Countywide, there's 1,266 of those. It's a little more than last year. Our department manages 992 of those. The balance of those are managed by our social services department. We have 1,193 voice over IP phones that are managed by IT. Central IT manages 877 users. That's a couple increased from last year. This employee to device ratio is how many devices there are for each employee. So for every 4 employees right now, we have 5 devices, and that's kind of on account of the folks that have work from home devices, and some people have a work from home device and a desktop computer at their desk in the office. So to the extent possible, departments have been trying to make that more of a one-to-one. You have one device and you bring it home with you, and you maybe dock it at work. It's a cost savings. These next two, this is essentially, it's a metric whereby we're kind of dividing the number of those endpoints, or excuse me, we're dividing our budget, our IT budget, by the number of endpoints, and it kind of gives you a number. There should be a dollar sign there by that 1580, but anyway, it's $1,580 per endpoint if you figure our budget as a ratio of device to budget. It's somewhat arbitrary, but I find it useful. Similarly, we have per user costs. That's essentially the cost of supporting one of our employees. All the stuff that makes up IT, all the labor, all of the services, all of the equipment, all of the service contracts and everything else, again, divided down to per employee costs. And that's kind of I think, a useful metric. And so essentially what we're showing there, I guess, is that the overall cost as it goes to one employee has decreased a bit this year. Yearly cost of productivity software, again, this is your typical, like what everybody has on their desktop, Office Suite software, $352,000. That's $352,500. That's essentially your Office 365 Office Suite. We pay a lot more for these things these days because everything is cloud-based, and so we kind of pay for it over and over, unfortunately. But we hope to, gain some benefit out of that with the frequent upgrades and different features that come out with these things. And then again, I kind of divide that cost by the number of users, and it's $341 per employee per year. And then security specific spending, this is like all the security products that we need to secure our network. This is essentially how much that costs us this year. That increased a bit this year as expected. These costs are rising every year. And again, per user, it's about $188. So you can kind of see there's a pretty substantial cost per employee for each of these. We have 57 facilities on the county network. That's decreased a little bit this year. I think that decreased by 1, if I'm not mistaken. 3,338 service requests completed. This is basically our ticketing system. 49 terabytes of data managed. Of course, that grows every year. And right now we have 4 out of 5 analyst positions filled. We have 1 open position. And then we have a ratio of how many users each of these analysts supports. And right now, that's 248 to 1. Now that ratio will go down once we fill that open position. And then analyst to user endpoint ratio, again, that's more derived by the number of endpoints each staff member supports. And our budget was $2,450,000. This next one, typical number of employees working from home. That's like how many people on a typical day are actually working from home in our workforce, 186. And this next one, overall employees working recently from home. That's like kind of the broad spectrum of folks that actually work from home, not maybe every day, but it kind of gives you an idea of how many people are routinely working from home. So that's 379. Points of emphasis for 2026, we have this aging Wi-Fi network that we've had throughout the county for a number of years. It's end of life. We're replacing that with a modernized system that is much more performant and will give a lot better coverage, a lot more I guess, bandwidth in terms of radio signals and things and the way they propagate. I think it'll do a lot of good, especially for this building. Replacing a lot of wide area network wireless infrastructure. This is basically the wireless connectivity that connects various county facilities to the core of the network. Replacing some of that. There's going to be a website design, a minor website design refresh. It's part of our Civic Plus contract. And we're finishing our multi-factor authentication rollout. And that's it.
We have questions from board members at this point. Supervisor Owen.
I would just like to say thank you. You guys have really been a lot of help to me in 2025, so I really appreciate your services.
You got it.
Thank you.
And likewise, really appreciate the work you guys are doing to make sure that we're secure and with all the advances and the threats that are out there against computers. So appreciate the work and thank you for being here today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
And next, we're going to move on to our librarian for a presentation about our library system. We have our director, or our librarian, Christopher Leach.
I'm in control of the slides? All right. No, I'm fine. So thank you. I'm Christopher Veach, County Librarian. And so for our 2025 accomplishments, over at Redbud Library, Lisa Mosher launched a successful summer lunch at the library grant program at the Redbud Library. It's a state-funded grant program in Clear Lake, which provided summer meals alongside literacy programs to kids. We launched our new online library catalog, which really improved the user experience and which really makes it a lot easier to access the library's holdings. For example, this new upgraded catalog allows us to create staff lists and feature them prominently. So as one example, we created a list that highlights items from local authors. We participated in 5 parades with the Bookmobile, which helps highlight the library around the community. With funding from the nonprofit charity, the Friends of the Lake County Library, we launched online author talks, which have been a very popular online resource that connects residents with best-selling authors. We updated our collection development policy to align with the California Freedom to Read Act, reaffirming our commitment that the collection reflects the diverse interests of the community. So this year, one of the largest library suppliers of materials, books and DVDs, Baker & Taylor, went out of business, making it difficult for libraries across the country to purchase new books and DVDs. So we worked to establish a new relationship and made sure our library could keep purchasing new titles as best we could despite this industry-wide disruption. With the Public Services Department and state funding through the California Library Infrastructure Grant, we are working on completing installation of a fire suppression system at the Lakeport Library, which should be finished soon. And there are still more work to do on our infrastructure grant. Georgina Guardado in our literacy department launched the Career Online High School program for community members to earn a high school diploma and career certificate online. And we also continue to partner with the California State Park and the Lake County Literacy Coalition to continue offering story walks events year-round. And the library's Bookmobile began attending the monthly story walk events for families to meet library staff, check out story walk books, and learn more about library services. So here are some of our data metrics. So for our stats this year, library circulation overall has increased slightly. So that is digital and physical materials added together. Physical materials circulation is down slightly. I attribute this partly to the month-long closure of the Lakeport Library, which is our busiest branch. And despite our efforts, circulation did drop while we were just offering curbside service and people couldn't come in. Plus, we did have a slowdown in getting new materials due to Baker & Taylor closing this year. However, digital checkouts of ebooks and especially e-audiobooks continues to increase, this year by 13%. We have had slightly less physical materials added. due to the price of materials going up while our materials budget remains flat, and also again to the slowdown in acquisitions due to the closure of Baker and Taylor. Public computer sessions is down very slightly by less than 1%, but the number of devices we lend has increased, as well as the number of programs offered and attendance at those programs. So for our outreach performed, we performed over double the number of outreach visits than we performed in the prior year. And that's attending classrooms, attending public meetings, attending street fairs or farmers markets, or visiting those places with our bookmobile. Our new library card numbers is down by 10%, but our total number of library members has remained steady. As stipulated by the state, we purge library card members who have not used their library card in the last 3 years. The number of library visits is a new metric, so I can't tell you if it's increased or decreased, but our door counters estimated 112,525 visits to the library and the bookmobile this year. And then we have some of our statistics just for the bookmobile. So the number of visits looks like it's down there compared to last year, but that's because we decided this year to only include visits to our standard stops in this metric, not to include our outreach visits, which are highly variable in this metric. So that is just the standard stops that it visits every single week around the county. The number of materials we checked out via the bookmobile and the number of stops we made on our regular schedule did increase from the year before, though. And then our points of emphasis for next year, we'll continue to work on our library collection and maintain our grant-funded state programs. This year, we want to work with local public schools to make class visits and make sure every first grader is offered a library card. And then this is a big one behind the scenes, but we are moving from our current integrated library system, which manages every transaction in the library, to a new one, along with side of our partners, Sonoma and Mendocino County. Information technology is working on upgrading cables in all of our library branches, and we're still working on the California Library Infrastructure Grant to make life and safety improvements at our branches. And we will continue to monitor and report on the same metrics next year, unless you wanted to add any others, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
One question I have, understanding that cards get canceled if they don't get used in 3 years. Do we know what the percentage of this 1841 new cards was people coming back because they had a purge card and as opposed to never had a card before at all?
If someone was purged and they came back, they would show up as a new library user.
So we can't really track that?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, once they are removed from our system.
Okay, no worries. I was just curious. Any other questions from supervisors at this point? Not seeing any. Well, thank you for providing us that information today.
Thank you.
We'll conclude this. We're going to go ahead and move on. I'm going to go out of order a little bit and call up the registrar of voters.
What page number is at the bottom on the right corner?
37.
37, thank you. No.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Maria Valadez, Registrar of Voters. Thank you for having me here today. So the accomplishments for 2025 for the Registrar of Voters is an election was called last year, and we were given 75 days to put an election together compared to a typical 148 plus time frame. So kudos to all staff members that had to scuttle and get polling places, poll workers, get our ballot ordered and our sample ballot booklets compiled so that we can mail out. So we successfully administered the election and completed certification by December 2nd, which was that should say E plus 28, sorry. 28 days after the election, because the last day that we could accept cure signatures was that Sunday before that Tuesday. So with the passage of Proposition 50, Staff had to turn around within a short time frame after certification and before December 19th, the first day for candidate filing for the upcoming June election, and make adjustments to some of our voting precincts to comply with the changes within the congressional districts. For those of you that don't know, Lake County will now be in 2 congressional districts. And then we initiated the candidate filing in conjunction while working on the election and doing the precinct boundary changes. Go ahead. Thank you. So data points and metrics. So for elections, I just wanted to show how many registrants, new registrants we had in 2025, how many we updated or re-registered, and cancellations, and then metrics for the election of voter participation. So the number of how many ballots were issued went up because as every year registration increases. The participation, it's hard to measure because it depends on the type of election and the voter interest on whether they want to vote or not. But just to give you an idea, this is how many ballots were received by mail in the office, at the drop boxes, and on election day at the polling places. Next slide, please. I wanted to break down on election day at the office versus the polling place, just to show you that on election day, we issued 56 vote-by-mail ballots at the office, 346 ballots were dropped off at the office, and then we fielded 1,358 calls between 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Voters calling in and poll workers verifying voters to make sure that they were voting at the right polling location. At the polls, 1,633 people voted in person, 369 voted provisional, and then 2,800 ballots were dropped off at the polls on election day. Our points of emphasis is in 2026 is to fill our current vacancy. So we have one person that's out, and we hope to fill that out here within the next couple of months before the June election. We're preparing for and administering the June 2026 statewide primary election. And we'll also be preparing for the November general election as soon as we certify the primary election, sometime around July. This year we've had to implement, there was 43 election-related legislative bills that were chaptered last year, some of them which went into effect last year, but the majority will go into effect this year. There was a couple of bills, specifically one is going to be AB 1249, where we'll be required to be open Saturday before Election Day for a minimum of 6 hours to the public. So we'll be making an announcement and a media release for that. Assembly Bill 5 also, this is going to hit us pretty hard because the bill requires that we count all ballots 13 days after the election. So this will be a huge impact in our office for staff. We'll have to figure out how to do that. The only ballots we don't have to have completed are those that are provisional, the problem ones with the cure signature letters, and or any ballots that come from the other counties. So, but we still don't certify until the deadline. So we don't certify early, we just have to be done verifying signatures on the vote-by-mail ballots. Let's see.
So that's 13 days as opposed to 30 that was previously to count.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I think another bill that also passed is going to require that we, instead of weekly updates, that we have to do bi-weekly updates. So we'll have to get all of this done, but also stop to do updates for, the counts, for election counts. And then we'll be continuing participating in voter outreach events and promoting voter education. I didn't include it in my any of this, but we did attend 4 outreach events last year. So 2 high schools, Woodland College and the Night Out was attended by staff. So we're working on continuing participating in those. This year we'll have 2 coming up that we'll be participating at, Kelseyville being one, and I don't recall which the other one is at the moment, but that's right. So data points that elections can continue measuring are new registrants, cancellations, updates, re-registrations, voter participation, and outreach efforts. As I said, it's hard to measure voter participation because it just depends on the voters' interest to want to vote. So I'm thinking probably 2026 might be a high turnout. And that concludes my presentation.
Supervisor Owen, do you have a question?
I do. Cancellations, what does that stand for? It states 1,305 cancellations.
So when people move out of California, out of the county, when they
Oh, okay,
pass away, so when we
Okay.
have to cancel a voter reg, yeah.
Okay, and then, did we have any that appeared to be fraudulent? Do we have a number on that?
What, I mean, people sign under penalty of perjury that the information they're providing is true and correct, so I mean, we've never received anything that they mark that they're not a citizen. We send them out a letter, but I don't have record of
The reason I was asking was because you had to give us our ballots a second time, and we wondered if those that came in, we didn't receive our first ballot in the mail, my husband or I, and I had to go to your office and get another one.
Well,
So I was just curious if those came back. I wondered what happened to them.
you know, we don't mail them personally, so they go from the post office, and it's through the post office process. But as soon as we issue a second ballot to any voter, it cancels out your first ballot. So,
And that's what you had mentioned. I was just wondering if there was potential fraud.
none that I'm aware of, and if
Okay.
anything, would have been reported to the district attorney's office. But I wasn't aware of any voter fraud.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further from the board?
Can I just make one more comment?
Yes, please.
On the vote by mail ballots, also, if somebody were to have tried to vote your first ballot, we do verify signatures on every single ballot that comes back through to our office.
Yeah, I was just curious if it did come back, so. Thank you.
We would have to research it.
Okay, thank you.
Looks like no further questions. Well, thank you for being here and appreciate the work. I appreciate the outreach work, and hopefully, that will continue in the future, just to kind of educate our youth and encourage more people to vote.
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
Thank you, and a shout out to, like I said, our staff, our office, and all the departments that collaborate and help us get this together, IT and buildings and grounds.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for mentioning that. And next, we'll call up our Chief Public Defender.
All right. Thank you. I'm Tom Feimer. I'm the Chief Public Defender. I've met all of you. I'm pretty sure everybody kind of knows what we do, but just for clarity's sake, we represent people who cannot afford attorneys, who are charged with crimes in the Superior Court up here on the 4th floor. We also represent people in conservatorship cases. We will also be including juvenile cases in our purview starting this March, as the county has been on a contract system with the lawyers who represent them, but they're retiring, and it is something that statutorily should be done by our office, so we're excited to be undertaking that. Beyond that, I guess we're ready for the first slide. 2025 accomplishments, I will note by way of apology, I've been here about 3.5 weeks, so my slides are not as granular as everybody else's. But we also have a lot of our accomplishments and tasks there, as our office and department's relatively new. They sound simple, but they're very fundamental. One thing, we've managed to successfully transition. We went from the initial public defender to an interim, who I want to thank and say Mr. Torres did a tremendous job under the circumstances. And on to my tenure, which I hope is successful. We have went from a administrative staff of about 1 for the entire department to now 4 full-time staffers, 1 extra help. And this has dramatically improved both attorney preparedness, case management, and also just public experience. Public calling is not facing one, overwhelmed employee trying to figure out and get information about their case. And standardized business practices. What I sort of encountered is a lot of people who are really, diligent and dedicated about their work, but kind of an organization where folks are taking it upon themselves to kind of set up their own system and set up their own kind of way of managing things like case assignment, data collection, calendaring even. And there wasn't a lot of centralized procedures and policies in place. So really my first main task has been getting that all set up so that it's not all dependent on any one person, and they call in sick that day and suddenly we're in sort of a chaotic situation. And again, all of that really boils down to not just a better representation, but a better client experience too. And of course, budgetary oversight, just making sure, everything's spent in a way that, again, maximizes the defendant's representation. Next slide, please. So, increased staffing metrics. We've hired 4 additional attorneys, 3 additional investigators, 3 new administrative staff, an accountant. You can interpolate the formatting here. You heard Ms. Cronin say her case metrics are all up. When her case metrics go up, ours go up as we end up representing realistically the vast majority of those defendants. We took in 5,946 cases last year, of which 3,369 closed out, 269 conflicts. Well, I'll go to that sort of when we get to our goals and discuss this in more detail. Next slide, please. Points of emphasis, as I discussed, improving public client experience, including client communications, office experience, web experience. So when I arrived, there really wasn't literally, if you went to our office, you were sort of faced with a locked door and nowhere to kind of go. People kind of knock, and if they saw somebody moving around, they tap. We've ramped up sort of in our reorganizing so that, yes, there's an actual lobby and a place people can come in and wait and talk to somebody and say, hi, I have an appointment. Can you come meet with me? Making sure, again, that the phone system, people are getting a lot of messages even when people are there, as if the office was closed. Again, making sure somebody can call and find out who their lawyer is, how to make an appointment with them. Web experience, I am in the process of rebuilding the website. The website we had now it's a very basic, down to a basic landing page with some information about what our office is and how to contact us. It had been a kind of a very hodgepodge of different things, including some advice on some topics we really don't actually cover as part of our job. So I'm sort of working on to get more focused to our clients' sort of needs. More accurate and precise data gathering and analytics. Another thing I kind of found is historically, when I was administrator of LID, we had our own homemade kind of system, but was very easy, however, to get basic case info from. The Defender's Office had purchased a software system, case management system that has some very useful capabilities, but as I found, it was not most of the data that we're really looking for, such as conflicts, caseloads and such is kind of being kept in a, there's a spreadsheet here and there's, a list over there, and it's not really as centralized as it needed to be. And a lot of that goes with, I've instituted sort of a more regular file management system so that, again, as cases come in and files are processed, that most of this data is collected at a central point, and calendaring is regularly checked at a central point. And again, these are all basic systems just to make sure that we're on point, we're all making our appearances, the data we need is being collected, and it's being kept in a place where people can get it and know how to get it. And that's included training and improved sort of use of the software that I inherited. Goal to work with the Public Defender Oversight Committee, which hasn't met yet on my watch, but I'm looking forward to do so. Again, one of the reasons this office was set up is a feeling and a need that there needed to be more interaction with the public, more transparency, and the committee is really a way to have that oversight, and I'm again excited to be doing that in the coming year. Greater oversight of conflict practices and procedures. This has probably been the court's greatest sort of issue with us, is how many conflicts are declared. Right now we are down to 2 conflict attorneys, which conflict attorneys are not overseen by my office. They don't work. They get appointed when we have a conflict. The first thing I did is to sort of have to personally approve all conflicts that are declared in the office to make sure, that's not a conflict first, ask questions later scenario. And again, to sort of record and keep track the numbers, who's declaring them, what reasons, make sure they're legitimate bases. And then, of course, in expanding our representation to the juvenile cases starting in March. I believe that's it.
Questions from the board? Comments?
It's been a busy 3 weeks, yeah.
Well, we appreciate your efforts in coming in, and also the work that Carlos did. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yes.
And, looking forward to just seeing the department continue to build and improve. So thank you.
Well, thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And next, we're going to call up our Public Services Director, Lars Ewing. While he's coming up, I just wanted to make a note so the public's aware. The agenda shows probation on today, but they actually did their presentation a couple weeks ago. And so that can be found in our last regular meeting. Thank you. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Ewing.
All right. Well, good afternoon. Lars Ewing, Public Services Director. I will dive right into the next slide, and I think I have this. All right, great. The first thing I wanted to highlight as far as an accomplishment is the overarching management of the infrastructure that Public Services is responsible for. You can see buildings, parks, and landfill are the ones highlighted there. There are programs and services that we run, certainly that are addressed later in the slide, but over 100 buildings, parks, and the singular landfill. That's the heavy lift. Number of projects, capital projects that were under construction, either complete or in progress last year. There's a list there. Half of them have been mentioned by other department heads here, and that really points to the collaboration that we have. The way I look at it is that we are their designer, their general contractor. We work for them, so we try to carry those out as best we can. Recreation programming was another win. You can see we had the first and certainly not the last Canocti climb. We had kids summer day camp, a couple of rounds of swim lessons, and that's ever growing from just the last few years. Courthouse Museum Pomo Gallery was complete, and we rolled out an internship program with 3 separate interns, one at museums, one focused on recreation, and one that was focused on solid waste. Next slide here. Some of the data points, most of these are steady state, so I won't, even though it does have a number, an arrow up. But by and large, these are steady state. There were a few to highlight, though. Recreation events at 4. The numbers are low, but last year it was 1. The previous year it was 0. So we're ramping up quite a bit. The facility condition index says TBD. We are about 3 or 4 years ago. We had a facility assessment completed, and we were in the fair range. We anticipate having another completed here soon. We just don't have the data to really show what our index is. We can put some assumptions there, but we don't have that most recent assessment. So that's something that I look forward to. Next slide. All right, a few more metrics. Again, similar here, pretty much steady state. You can see some of the arrows pointing down on the recycling and diversion program quantities. While they're not too drastic, some of them are simply, for example, the filters, oil filters down at the bottom. That's over half of what it was before. That's simply because we're now tracking residential only as opposed to commercial and residential. So really nothing alarming with any of these figures here. At the very top, though, countywide disposal rate, 5.1 pounds per person per day. That is trending down, which is a good thing, and the compaction rate going up, that is also a good thing. So we have less coming in theory, and we're packing the garbage in tighter, which uses our airspace more efficiently. So, next slide. All right, points of emphasis moving forward. So organizing these by the divisions that are in public services, solid waste, and recycling. You can see landfill expansion, the various phases carrying those projects forward. Working on a long-term disposal plan as we run out of space or envision running out of space at the landfill. We are about 20 years out from hitting that, but we need to start planning for either options of expanding at that location, alternatives of somewhere else, handling our waste stream in an entirely different manner. So we're going to look at doing a long-term local disposal plan for that. Beverage container recycling solution. This really is a state program that I believe your board is certainly aware of. We continue to look for opportunities to step in and try to fill in the gaps where they are not. We have a grant that we are working with in partnership with Mendocino County through a contractor, and it's been apparent with the bumps and bruises along the way. I think for your board to be aware of as elected officials and carrying it forward, just that this is a state problem that is trickled down. Certainly, the money that comes in for CRV does not come to the county; it goes to the state. So that's certainly a problem. Last bullet point under solid waste is evaluation of potential for mandatory garbage service in community growth areas. We've completed a preliminary look at that in one community growth area. We're going to expand that to quite a few others and carry that out to the public so we can see what the desire is there. Museums, you can see a few things: increased school tours, native artifact repatriation, and a few new exhibits. A couple actually at just about every museum. So, next slide. Moving on to parks, recreation, and trails. On the construction side of parks, you can see there are a number of projects that we anticipate going into construction next year. Hammond Park, just to highlight that is currently under construction, and we'll be completing that next year. The others are not yet under construction, but they will be started and completed in that same year. Planning and design for parks, you can see there's quite a few that are in the planning stage. A few that I want to touch on: Cobb Community Park. We are hopeful for a federal grant, a $1.3 million grant that we've made it through the first couple of rounds of approval, and we're optimistic to get that. I highlight that because it's an opportunity to have other people pay for pay for park improvements. You mentioned you might have heard earlier the Parks Reserve. There's funding there, but we want to reserve that as match for projects like this. Let's see, Highland Springs Park. That is not a public services department managed park. It is managed by Water Resources. It's been on the on the radar as either a transfer from water resources to public services for the park proper portion of that, as opposed to the flood control portion of Highland Springs. I put up here a co-management agreement, so we'd be, that's another approach. So that's just the terminology is maybe unique, but or odd, but it's collaboration with water resources on how to manage Highland Springs in the future. And then recreation programming continued and expanded. Last thing to highlight there is just the fact that we are hiring a recreation manager here. It's been a little bit of delay bringing her on, but I'm looking forward to that. Last slide for public services, facilities here. You can see this is again on the 2026 points of emphasis, variety of construction projects, and I'm highlighting projects that go to construction because we have about 40 or 50 capital projects at any point in time in any stage, and construction is where people tend to focus, and so I wanted to highlight what we will be bringing to construction. A lot of these have been aforementioned, and so I don't know that I need to go into too much detail here, but we will be carrying quite a few forward to construction, which emphasizes the need for construction management staff, and so that's something that we have, and we have a solution to make it even more robust so that we can meet the needs for these projects. Planning and design, a few highlighted there. Courthouse interior, we have the move on the 4th floor, be coming to your board here probably in the next month with an update on the various domino effects of facility moves, and so you can look forward to that. It's not an answer of who will go where, but it'll provide some insight and allow the board to provide input. Let's see, I won't go into any more detail on the planning and design projects. And then the last thing in closing is a point of emphasis is the evaluation of a potential merger with the Public Works Department that I believe your board is certainly well aware of. So I'll wrap that up for public services.
Any comments or questions from the board at this point? Doesn't appear so. We thank you for that
Great.
presentation, and you'll stay here for the next one?
I hope my time limit starts over, so
Yeah,
thank you.
which is
All right.
Public Works.
Yeah. All right, so Lars Ewing, Interim Public Works Director. I've had the pleasure over the last 7 months of serving as the Interim Public Works Director. Accomplishments from 2025, similar to public services, I highlight the day-to-day infrastructure management of your road network. There's a lot of information there about what it includes. It's more than just the road. That's everything associated with that, and that's that's the heavy lift on the road side of it, the road crew side. To highlight a few capital projects that were either completed or are currently in progress. You can see a few of them up there. A couple of road projects and a couple of bridge replacement projects. Next slide. All right, again on accomplishments, pre-construction milestones, just two specific projects that I wanted to highlight. Again, similar to public services, there are about 50 capital projects that we are in various stages on. So to talk about every one would be, we don't have the time for that, but two milestones I wanted to bring up for two projects. One is South Main Street, Soda Bay Road, both the road widening and improvement project, but also the utility undergrounding. The pre-construction phase is complete, as your board, I believe, is aware. Later this week, the California Transportation Commission will be considering about $10.5 million for the road improvement portion of that. Have no reason to believe that won't be approved. So that's an exciting milestone, still with plenty of work to remain. The utility undergrounding portion we anticipate later this calendar year, and then the road widening portion in 2027. The other project to highlight there is Canocti Road sidewalks. The pre-construction phase is complete. Your board a few weeks ago, actually a month or so ago, awarded the construction project, and we are looking forward to going into construction for that. Fleet and heavy equipment, what's called AKA Central Garage. They have a heavy, they are managing similar to the road network. They're managing the day-to-day infrastructure for our vehicle network. They also do it for, so those are for the department-owned vehicles. They also do the same for heavy equipment for roads and a few other departments. So you can see a few of their focuses, maintaining and modernizing the fleet, and a highlight is that we did add in hybrid electric vehicle capability and the charging infrastructure for that. So that'll be expanding. To call it a pilot project is probably not the right nomenclature, but we are starting at the small level and building it up. Last highlight here in accomplishments is the county surveyor. This is an often overlooked division. I do call it a division in Public Works. I don't know if it has been before, but it truly is. That two-man crew, one man, one woman crew right now does a yeoman's work, and it's more than going out and surveying what you might think of as field surveying. They handle county surveyor office functions primarily, and they provide a significant service to the public as well as internal to many departments. I would say community development being the main player there. So, next slide. All right, data points here again, similar to public services, nothing too extreme. Some of the numbers, comparing them to previous years, you can see, service requests, did go up, but at the same time, new service requests went down. So nothing too out of the ordinary here. I haven't jumped into the weeds on this to determine whether these are appropriate to track, but I think that's something for the permanent director to do in the future. Let's see, equipment, same comment there with equipment and vehicle fleet. So, all right, next slide. So moving on to this calendar year and points of emphasis, just jumping right into construction, you can see a laundry list of projects that we anticipate going into construction, some of which I mentioned previously, but there are a few ongoing ones to comment on. One is the 2026 pavement preservation project, which is AKA the chip seal. Hill Road, we'll call it the landslide, but the Hill Road and North Lakeport, that's one that's been on the books for quite some time. We are right at the very end of the right-of-way approval, and construction is anticipated this year. And then you can see a number of bridge projects, and these are, again, the ones going to construction. Engineering and roads here, kind of an odd terminology of engineering and roads, but bottom line, you can see that besides the projects going to construction, they're planning and design of quite a few other projects, not just road, but also airport improvement projects. So, next slide. All right, what you can't see on the top says engineering. Point of emphasis is to update the county road design and construction standards. Director Turner referenced to some extent the ag standards, I believe, in her presentation. This is above and beyond the ag standards. We're doing those in parallel, so we don't wait on the ag standards for the overarching all county road design and construction standards, but these are dated and need to be updated. Not on the slide for engineering, though it's worth mentioning. I haven't talked at all about staffing. Staffing, I would say, is we could talk about the vacancy rate, but one thing I wanted to highlight, one specific position, is a deputy director position for Public Works that we have a new deputy director starting next week. He's an experienced engineering and experienced capital project manager and experienced in the county as well. So he has over 20 years of experience previously in Public Works, so it's a great opportunity, if for nobody else than me, for him to step in and really lead that engineering division, which is full of great employees, and I think he'll be a great addition. Let's see, roads, a point of emphasis here. You've heard the chip seal project. I think a point of emphasis is we continue that, but what I've asked the road superintendent to do is consider what it would take to do 50 miles of chip seal a year instead of 35, and what do we need to do? Are we talking about additional staff? Obviously, we're talking about more money, pure and simple. But what does that look like, and what are the pros and cons of that? So we're evaluating that. Fleet and heavy equipment, you can see basically it's continuing to do their job. That's really the summarization there. Same on the county surveyor. One unique one there at the end is relinquishment of Caltrans Highway 29 frontage. When the highway was constructed, it resulted in some portions of roadway that need to be relinquished to the county, and so we're working through that process. And in closing, though it's not on the slide, is similar to Public Services, is to evaluate the potential merger, in this case with the Public Services Department. So I'll end there and happy to answer any questions.
Supervisor Owen.
What areas on 29 are they relinquishing, Caltrans relinquishing to us?
It-
Is that
it's-
around Hartman?
No. It's the Highway 29 corridor between 281 and 175, where they completely realigned it within the last 3 or 4 years with the new construction, and it resulted in new county roads. So no, not in your district.
Okay, well, I want to say I really appreciate the work that you guys have done. I'm really happy with our work crew on our roads, and you guys have done an amazing job.
Well, they have, yeah, for sure.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Not seeing anything, we'll appreciate your
Oh,
time today.
I do
Yeah.
have one more question.
go ahead.
I'm so sorry. Plug-in stations. I know I had forwarded you a letter from a constituent. Is that something that will be coming up in the future for vehicle EV plug-in stations, like say at senior centers or libraries or something along those lines? Is that something that might be on the radar?
It is on the radar through a couple of different facets. One is through Public Services, working with a few grants at a few locations, primarily at libraries, though that is, the charging stations are not included there, but the infrastructure may be there. But more at a higher level is Lake Area Planning Council. They are working on a project for that, so I could certainly connect you with the transportation planner who's heading that up.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor
Yeah,
Crandall.
I don't know if I missed it, but did you mention the Rodman Slough pavement, Nice Lucerne cutoff?
It's included in the
In the plan.
2026.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
not
just
called
wanted
out
to make sure.
specifically.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure if anyone's watching and they're wondering about it.
Yes.
Thank you. Anything further? Doesn't appear so. Thank you,
All
Mr.
right,
Ewing.
thank you.
Thank you, Lars.
And next, we're going to call up our Social Services Director, Rachel Delman Parsons, for presentation.
Good afternoon, Board. So, I'm going to take this opportunity to briefly kind of spin off and talk about some topical concerns. They do tie directly to my points of emphasis, which are on the last page of this presentation. And of course, I'll address any other questions you have regarding my slides. So as you saw today in our Board of Soups public comments, in the legislative priorities, and our department head presentations, there are a lot of looming funding challenges, particularly in health and human services. Both the state and federal budgets are shifting significant costs towards counties. And as you are aware as well, here in Lake County, 50% of our residents, more or less, receive their Medi-Cal through medical coverage through Medi-Cal Partnership Health Plan. About 25% of our population also receives CalFresh EBT food benefits, both of which are administered through my department. So the governor's January budget proposes to shift numerous costs to counties. I'm going to talk about two of the major ones that are going to hit my department if it does not change, but there are certainly more that I was not expecting in there. One of the largest ones is increasing IHSS costs for counties, which is the opposite direction of what I was hoping for. And the second is no relief for HR1 cost shifts onto counties. When the feds are shifting costs to the state, those costs are being shifted onto counties without any relief. So with regard to IHSS increases, the CIFCO penalty, which we currently have to pay 50% of, is going to increase to 100% of county share. I am less concerned about that because we have done a good job catching up on our caseload with regard to that penalty. But there is a way which the casework goes where we're never going to be at zero because some of the delays are unavoidable, not our fault by the recipients, maybe completing paperwork late, so we're always going to pay some penalty there. The larger and much more concerning shift of IHSS costs to counties is that any increase in IHSS hours are proposed to be 100% county share. That is a huge, potentially unmanageable cost. That is a little scary for counties right now because the state cannot tell us how that is going to be calculated. And it is resulting in some counties kind of cutting hours in anticipation for cost control. We are not doing that. We are hoping to address it through legislative advocacy, and then we'll strategize after that. Then with regard to HR 1, the second thing that is concerning in that the federal budget does not, the state budget does not afford any relief to counties for this. 20% of CalFresh administrative costs currently will be passed on to counties. This alone, without any of the other things that the state proposes to pass on to counties, will exhaust my reserves, not just my realignment, all of my reserves within 2 years, after which we will be operating in deficit. What else comes along with HR 1? More stringent rules for the public, which come with more workloads for my staff to both try and help people stay on the programs they're eligible to by jumping through these extra hoops to stay on the programs. But it also requires more work of my staff in evaluating the program requirements, which are more stringent. Renewing your benefits every 6 months instead of every 12 months. That's a double workload. And I do not see any scenario where the caseload attrition will equal the increased workload. And this increased workload didn't come with any additional administrative funding. So moving on to realignment, which is the magic pot of money that fills all the gaps, but it keeps shrinking. So this is the money that backfills any funding gaps. And a realignment is funded through local sales tax and vehicle licensing. So in a downturned economy, that means less funding. There was a huge long laundry list of what realignment is mandated to fund. Child welfare services, including foster youth, family wrap, family training, safety organized practices, supportive therapeutic options training, kinship foster care, emergency care, independent living programs, specialized care. The list goes on and on for the child welfare services programs that realignment is intended to fund. In addition, realignment is also intended to fund CalWorks, welfare to work services for working low-income families, including benefit payment, anti-lice program, domestic violence services, learning disability evaluations, mental health services, substance abuse services, transportation, education, subsidized employment, and another long list of things within the CalWorks welfare to work program these funds are intended to support. In adult services, it provides protective emergency funding and hazardous waste proposal. In the IHSS program, it covers our county maintenance of efforts for IHSS provider pay, and that MOE, maintenance of effort, increases 4% every year, even if there is no provider wage. So we're paying more of our realignment in there, even without any wage increases. Realignment also pays for any additional IHSS provider pay raises. It covers the costs of public authority, IHSS advisory committee, these new CIFCO penalties, and if they don't get resolved, the new IHSS hour increase burden to counties. And then in addition to that, all unfunded or underfunded program administration. So you can see realignment gets stretched really far. Our two largest expenditures for realignment are IHSS provider wages and foster care payment. In the current fiscal year, we're looking at 71% of realignment going to pay IHSS provider wages, and within 2 years, we'll be at 80%, we're estimating, of our realignment going to pay IHSS provider wages. So in consideration of this, as your board is aware, earlier this month, we did issue our last best final offer to SEIU regarding IHSS provider pay, and we are simply awaiting their response to that offer. So assuming a best case scenario where realignment remains flat under HR1, we, as I said, will exhaust all of our reserves within 2 years. Everything that came in the governor's budget that I didn't anticipate, if it's enacted as it's written, we'll probably exhaust that much sooner. So I'm looking at mitigation, and I'm working with public health and behavioral health to bring a presentation to you in February. I know it's like the doom and gloom show. We love it. That was sarcasm. So I am engaging in advocacy with county admin and the County Welfare Directors Association to try and keep these things from becoming enacted into the budget. I've cut all non-emergency overtime in my department, and over the last month we saved equivalent 3.5 FTEs. I am not currently contemplating a hiring freeze simply because there are very real penalties for not meeting production standards now that they have never enforced, but now they are enforcing them, like the CIFCO penalty. And we are co-locating our welfare fraud investigators effective July 1st, so we can get rid of one facility we're paying for. We're also going to co-locate the One Stop, which will help us with the new work requirements several of our programs have. So that's a great coordination. I am researching using AI assistance for case notes and form completion. We would only go that route if it is cost neutral or a cost savings. And I'm looking at other ways to make things work. So I think it's a tough situation. We're going to have to be flexible. And right now my focus is advocacy. And I look forward to more conversations as we put our thoughts together, and Elise and Anthony will be up here presenting to you in the next month. Any questions regarding the actual content?
Supervisor Crandall.
I just have one. I know that, there was some discussion today and other times about the IHSS, funding and whatnot when it comes to the SEIU. And they mentioned something about like 50% comes from the federal government, 30% comes from the state, and 20 comes from, can you elaborate on that for me?
I know that a portion of it is covered by, I can give you the actual, I know that what they are paid, 70% of that is coming from me right now. I can bring that back to you in the presentation. I don't know the math off the top of my head. I know that, I'm sorry, what was the question?
Well, they're talking about a percentage and then like $1.10 that can go on top of
Oh,
it
I know
or
what
something
you
like
mean.
that, yeah.
Okay, so they're talking about the match above minimum wage. So the MOE we have to pay regardless for minimum wage. Counties can either choose to raise IHSS provider pay above minimum wage or not, and that's through the negotiation process. If you raise it above minimum wage, the match that the state will match you at 50%, the cap is at 110. There is another method for match where you can go 10% above minimum wage, and we costed that out too, and it's just not affordable to us. I mean, we're already kicking 70% of our realignment, and it's going to be, closer to 80%. So it's just not affordable. And the way the rules are written, it's also for a 3-year term subject to California Department of Social Services renewal if you choose the 10% match option. CDSS has indicated they're willing to approve it and renew it, but the way the rules are written, there's really like no guarantee tied in, whereas the $1.10 above minimum wage match is. So anything above $1.10 becomes twice as expensive for us unless we opt into and are approved for the 10% match, but we can't afford either.
So would it be safe to say that if the federal government or the state, do they have a capacity to raise this situation? Considering that the checks that they get have come from the state, right?
Yeah, the checks to IHSS providers are issued by the state, and that would be a solution I would support for the state of California to take on IHSS collective bargaining statewide. I think that would be a good solution for us, as long as it came with the state also taking on funding responsibility. in some capacity. There has been some bills before the legislature for consideration. The last one hasn't died yet. It can come back one more time for consideration. I think we probably won't see it until Governor Newsom is out of office. I don't think he was supportive of that solution.
I wanted to hear that right there, so,
Yeah.
thank you.
Supervisor Pyska.
I appreciate this update and also that we're going to have another one coming up soon. But I am really grateful that you were able to get this into our state legislative priorities, because this is something that you can advocate on with your, through your association, and we can also. And, hopefully we get some other partners on board to help us with this advocacy, because this is a problem that's just crushing us and it's going to get worse and worse.
Okay.
Any other supervisors? Supervisor Owen?
Yes, you had mentioned that we do have some fraud investigators
We
that are
do.
working. Good.
Yeah, I have 2 welfare fraud investigators. They're funded through CalFresh and CalWorks dollars, and those are the only programs that allow for fraud investigator funding.
Okay,
I
and
don't
have
have
we,
dollars for IHSS. Were times greener, I could probably find some realignment funds to make that happen. I don't think that's in my future unless someone would like to come up with some funding.
no, I'm glad that we are on top of that.
Okay.
Considering the current climate,
Oh, yeah.
it's really important.
Yeah, and that includes if you're thinking about the child care funding freeze, which is just like this whole other ball of wax I didn't bring up right now, because it is currently in litigation, and we got another 2-week stay, and who knows what's going to happen there. But the funding freeze wasn't just for child care, it was also for TANF, which is CalWorks program, the entire program, including Welfare to Work, and also the Social Services Block Grant, which trickles down to all of my programs. So this isn't like stopped funding, it's frozen funding as long as we being the state, meet certain conditions to release data. Some of that data is like not related to maintaining the programs, and these programs are also very thoroughly audited already. The state audits, the federal government audits. I have internal quality control staff who review cases, and then we have our welfare fraud investigators who both investigate cases we refer to them and random public tips. And then if the case has sufficient evidence, they'll refer it to the DA for prosecution.
Perfect, thank you. And then the other comment was with Mike McGuire's office aide, Rihanna, that kind of put us on the spot a little bit. I really appreciated you following up with an email for us, giving us more current stats. So I did appreciate that, but is there any way to communicate with them and let them, because that kind of,
It's very tricky when you're in negotiations. I can check with Margaret, our negotiator. She said earlier today that it was okay to mention we had given last best final, since it is important to correct misinformation. Beyond that, I haven't discussed with her, and I will let you know.
thank you.
Anything further? Well, my questions were answered. I appreciated that detailed update on particularly the budget today, because that's, critical for us to know with everything we got going on, all the programs that you have to run and provide. There's, seems to be getting less and less to fit in to cover all these things that we really have to provide. So it makes it very difficult, and I appreciate the questions and comments from supervisors, because I would have the same questions and concerns. And Supervisor Crandall?
I wanted to bite my tongue, but I'm not. It's frustrating to see the SIEU coming to us and putting us on the spot, yet they're behind, some of these other state legislators and the governor putting up their signs like they're not part of the problem. So I don't know. It's frustrating because I do want to help them, but at the same time, there's people with more power than us that can help them. I wish some of them were here so they could hear that, but maybe they can go back and watch this on the video.
I appreciate that, and I've thought for a long time the state really needs to handle this on a statewide basis with all 58 counties. And I know there's been bills that haven't gone anywhere, and hopefully maybe this next one will at some point. So go ahead, Supervisor Pyska.
I mean, it's just important for all of us to remember that we're a small county carrying a medium county's caseload.
Yes, we are.
And it's not unique throughout the state, but it's just something that we have not been able to bear very effectively, and we will not be able to in the future.
Especially with a funding mechanism where it's based on sales tax and VLF, and smaller county, less money, big county has it easy, right? It's a very backwards way to fund it.
The statistics you sent us in the email, those were pretty important, and I know you didn't hit on all of them, but that really kind of brought things down to earth. And I really appreciated that. I'd like to see that public.
I don't know if I can do that
That's okay.
before our negotiations are
Okay.
complete, which is why I was very kind of like nebulous in what I did say.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further from our board? It doesn't appear so, and I want to thank you again for giving us all this information today.
Thank you.
And I'm going to call a quick,
Present my slides.
what was that? We have them, we've got those, thank you. I'm going to I need to call a 5-minute break. Does that work? I'm going to call our meeting back to order, and hang on one second. Director, I want to announce so the public is aware that also on the agenda, you'll see UC Cooperative Extension presentation, and they are not available today, so that one is going to be moved to a future date unknown. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Director Boré.
Good afternoon, board and residents on Zoom and staff in the room. I am Robin Boré, your special district administrator. So I'm not going to read every one of these lines, but these are our accomplishments for 2025. And this is in addition to our standard operating 6 water systems and 4 wastewater systems. So the addition of our CMOM, Albert Coates, allowed us to implement a new fog program. So that's for fats, oils, and greases, which is a major contributor to spills and issues with the sewer system. He was able to purchase and implement the database, so he has now been able to take all the random lists that we had and put all of those in, all the locations into this database. It's a way for the businesses that have them cleaned. It's a place for them to have all that information uploaded so that they can be monitored. It also contains all the inspection records, and so he was able to get all of the known ones we had uploaded into the system and get that fully implemented. He also created a comprehensive manhole inspection and line cleaning process, and that was primarily used by our new seasonal crew as a way to evaluate our existing system when they were out doing the smoke testing and LSL ratting, so that we could get a handle on, I&I and where we needed to do line cleaning. And so they were able to focus on those identified areas. And he also was able to get our CCTV camera van working that the district had for years, and they hadn't been able to use it. It was not operational, and so he was able to get that fully functional and is able to go out and camera lines and find issues. So every time there's a spill, he runs the camera through there. When we find stuff with the SL rat, he can run the camera in there and find where the blockages are, if it's roots, if it's, exactly what it is, if the lines are broken. It's a huge undertaking to actually camera all of the lines, so this is especially helpful when they're doing repairs and looking at problem areas. Additionally, he developed a spill response package, and that's in every one of our trucks now. So now he also trained all the staff on how to properly respond to a spill. So the first thing they do when they get there is to take a video and put out wattles and try and contain it and that stuff before they would just show up and start cleaning it up. And that made it very hard to report stuff. So he's got a whole process down and trained everybody on how to do that now. And it's helped a lot. We also created an EMT division, so that now all of our EMTs report to somebody that's an electrician that understands motors and maintenance and mechanics. So that's helping consolidate all of that information, and so now they also have a chain of command, or areas where they can reach out and get assistance from other areas instead of them being in a little island by themselves. They now have an electrician that knows how to do all of this stuff, and then a team, like the utility workers have a team. And Albert has also created 3 standard operating procedures that help with, how they are going to how they standardize all the different reactions to spills, to, he's going to create one for the camera van. He's going to create one for a couple other things. So he's gotten 3 of those done. We did hold our team building event that was very well received by our crew. We shut down the whole office, and so it was all the different utility areas got to get together. We created our CIP, which had been a long time coming, and it was going to be presented next month. And now I believe it's getting pushed off till March due to now funding issues and things that need to be shifted around with the emergency response. I will say that some of the projects that were in that would have prevented this last 2-week event. So we also completed the geyser agreement, and we are near completion of the 2 wells, one for Spring Valley and the secondary one for North Lakeport. The North Lakeport one, we actually found an existing well, and they're able to retrofit that one and get that one back online, because the 2 holes we drilled there was no water. So this was a great find. And staff has been attending a lot of training from safety, traffic control, confined spaces, and other OSHA required training. So they're all up to speed on how to operate everything in a safe manner. All of the water companies, not just special districts, have been working really closely with the fire districts led by Willie Cepeda. And he has been working on some mobile fire suppressions. So they're like mobile fire hydrants, where you can deploy them into any body of water and it becomes a fire hydrant. And so we're working on those with him, and we'll be storing those and maintaining them at our yards, so that there's 4 of them kind of dispersed around the different county area. And we'll coordinate with other water companies so that not only us can respond, that other people have access to those in an attempt to provide additional fire suppression. We've also awarded the rate study contract and had begun the Southeast rate study. We have put a pin in that for the next month until we recover all of our costs and can adjust for the recent occurrences, but that will be coming forth. And so some of our data points. So the SLRAT is a sewer line rapid assessment tool. So they go from manhole to manhole, and it sends a radio frequency, and then it bounces back and tells us by color if the line is clear or not. So if it comes back red, then the utility crews are notified to follow up, and they need to clean that line. That means it's full of roots or there's a blockage in there. And so there's 3 other colors. There's green, green's go, green is good. And then there's 2 other varying colors. And so the summer crew that we hired did 46 miles of that, which is almost all of the North Lakeport area, from Upper Lake, Nice, Lucerne, Kono, all the way down to North Lakeport, and that's the sewer collection system for Northwest. The line cleaning was predominantly in response to the SL routing. So when they found lines that were blocked, they were able to go clean those, as well as items that they found in the southeast area. The same crew also did smoke testing, and so that's when they run smoke through the collection system, and then as it comes out, it'll come out in like rain gutters or in end-of-line cleanouts or property line cleanouts that aren't capped. So it is a huge help in reducing I&I in the system. And when they were doing that, they ran out of caps in the county, and we had to get more from outside of the county because there were so many caps that were not on. And they did identify several locations that had rain gutters connected. So that was a huge help. And then we also implemented a level 1 manhole inspection, and this is primarily in the northwest area of the wastewater system, and that's where they go and they pop the manhole and they do a thorough inspection and they take specific pictures. And so now we have a database of which manholes need to be fixed, which ones are in good condition, and that kind of stuff. And this will continue to other areas as time allows. And so now I want to talk, the next few slides are about sewage spills. And so category 1 are the spills we do not want. They are the ones that hit a body of water. They're the ones that we can't recapture and that we can't clean up after. So in 2025, we had a significant reduction in category 1 responses. And that's primarily because the crew is very responsive. They get the call, they're within minutes. The Vector truck now goes as soon as we get a call. It's not go assess it and then call it back on. They respond immediately. Certain areas they know to start calling pumper trucks and stuff like that. So you can see the geyser where the ARV blew in North Lakeport. That was actually a larger volume that came out of the system. But when it all is said and done, whatever we capture, when the pumper truck comes and the vac-on comes and we clean all of that up, we are able to deduct that from the total that's actually spilled. So when we respond, we initially call Cal OES and we say, we estimate it's usually 2,000 gallons or something like that, just by when we get there, what we think it is. That's an initial number. It is kind of a meaningless number, but it's a number that they need to put in their system to say that it's happened. And then periodically, like this last one, we started updating Cal OES as it kept growing, to the point where they finally updated it to the maximum possible amount that could have come out of the system, despite how much we are collecting from other lift stations. So they reported 2.9 as that was if the entire collection system had failed and dumped out in that neighborhood. And then we keep track of, because they ran pumper trucks from lift station 1 and 2. So those quantities couldn't spill. So now we deduct those. And so then we deducted 160,000 gallons or 1.6 million gallons of the 2.9, leaving, a 1.3 million gallon possible spill. And then we tally up all of the pumper trucks that came and cleaned up the lakes that were out there. And then that'll be further reduced into what the actual spill that just happened would be. And we actually have recovered more than we possibly could have spilled. We know that there was about 3,900 gallons based on their water math, and they, monitor how many garden hoses were going in the creek and that kind of stuff for how long, and they can calculate pretty accurately how much was actually lost into the drainage ditch that then went into the creek that went into the lake. So despite we have, had a huge spill, we actually only spilled 3,900 gallons as when we report it to the state. And that report was actually just completed yesterday and certified. So that's kind of how these reports go. And so there seems to be a lot of confusion on how we report our sewer spills. So I kind of wanted to explain how it starts out low. It starts out really low, this normal little amount that is kind of standard for everybody to report. And then it is kind of more reality, less what we've recovered, and then what we actually spilled. So that's why that number moves so much. And so, but, we have in the last 2 years cut those rates down considerably. Category 1 spills are the ones that we don't want to have. I would much rather have, 40 or 50 small 3 and 4 category ones that are easy to clean up. Granted, we don't want to have any spills, but if I have to choose, we don't want category 1s because that's the ones that go into our waterways, and we can't ever collect those back. So, and then we look at category 1, that's a spill that's over 1,000 gallons. However, it didn't make it to a waterway. That means it didn't make it into any kind of like dry ditch or anything like that. It was something that was completely able to be recovered. And so again, that number also decreased. Then category 3, those are the small spills between 50 gallons and 1,000 gallons, usually, surcharges in the system. And those did go up, but those are a direct relation to staff understanding how to actually respond to the spill and calculate the flows at this point. And so they did go up, but if you look at all 4 categories, they have drastically gone down. And then the category 4 spills, previously these small spills were really not being reported, and that has drastically changed since I've become administrator, that a spill is a spill and we need to report it, not, oh, well, we spilled 5 gallons, it doesn't matter, that's still, we need to report that. So you can see that now those are all being reported. Not a large quantity, but it looks like a lot of different spills. And so moving on to some more matrix. So the manhole spot checks, we have started those. Those are really, they're popping the manholes and looking in the manholes, seeing, is the system surcharged? Can they see any visual blockage? Is there any indication there's issues? And so they're popping those. A lot of times at this point, they are putting in what we call dog bowls. Albert was able to inspect all 106 grease traps in the Middletown and Southeast area. And I believe he is now working on Northwest. And there's a few in Kelseyville that he's already done. So Kelseyville is pretty much done as well. The standard operating procedures that he has completed was the spill response pack, the manhole level 1 assessment package, and the sewer cleaning nozzle. So when on our VACON trucks, when they clean lines, there's different nozzles kind of like on your hose. And so there's like a cutting one that'll cut roots out. There's, there's different ones on there that are used for different kinds of cleaning in the system. And so he's created a procedure for that so that everybody knows why you use which tip when. He's also working on the one for the CCTV van and for the VACON trucks, and the new GPS Trimble units that we're getting so that we can actually GPS all of our assets, and that can show up in our GIS modules more accurately. He's also working on updating the Middletown, Southeast, Northwest, and Kelseyville plants, processes, and the lift stations. Stuff that we're going to be working on this year is completing the grant applications for the consolidation projects that were approved, the CDBG grant application for the Middletown plant upgrade, and the new line cleaning and CCTVing of the entire Southeast system that Supervisor Sabatier pushed through a couple weeks ago. We'll also be completing the rate study for Southeast and Lands End. The Southeast collection system hasn't been updated since 2010, and so that's also going to have a lot of these new projects that need to be done where we need to replace lines and we need to do slip lining, and a lot of those other projects will start showing up in these rate studies. Lands End is the area where our system joins with Lakeport, and so right now we're charged more by the city of Lakeport to collect and treat that system than we are collecting from the ratepayers. So that's why it's a very small area, but it's a priority system because it's a negative rate return right now. We also should be finishing the full circle feasibility study and the capacity analysis for water and wastewater. And there's 2 slip lining projects. So that's the pipe lining where they're working on that in Kelseyville and in the harbor area in Helen's district down in the down by the lake. And then working on the water line replacement in Live Oak. All 3 of those projects have been awarded, so they're in process. And then working on lift stations. There's 3 lift stations in Paradise Valley that are in very poor condition, and so they're working on getting those lined so that they're all sealed up again. And so the next thing is to finish installing the I&I reduction bowls. That's what we call dog bowls, and it's the little saucer that goes inside the lip of a manhole. And I want to highlight that these are to reduce I&I from rain. But when they become inundated and the water floods over them, or there's runoff from like dirt areas and there's rock and debris, these will fill up and they will collapse into the system. So they're a rain deter, but they are not a end all. This is going to solve any I&I that comes across that manhole. So that's why it's really important that our manholes are never covered with water and free from any storm flows. Then we're going to finish completing the sewage dump station at Southeast and Northwest, and those plans are almost ready to go to bid. And then we will be looking at a SCADA upgrade project. that will do a complete analysis of all of our SCADA systems and create a separate network from the county so that this can be a true automated system where from anywhere in the county, the crews will be able to see, oh, I have a high wet well alarm, and it's a computerized system that monitors all the wastewater, and you can use it for water as well. So we can turn on wells, we can turn on pumps, we can respond from a tablet or a phone while the crews are actually responding to scene, and getting that upgraded. Right now, a lot of our systems are sold; they don't even support them anymore. Right now, if you want to see the ones in Northwest wastewater system, you actually have to go to that office. And then if you want to see the ones for Spring Valley, you have to drive all that way out to Spring Valley. So getting one that's on a standalone system, we've done a lot of upgrades to the Soda Bay plant already, and that's our goal, is to get analysis of the entire system and what it would take to get everybody up to a modern state of technology. That'll come back in the CIP. You guys will see that. Another project that was coming in the CIP was the Southeast Headworks realignment project. That would have replaced all the valves, including the one that failed 2 weeks ago. And it would have separated. We have all the force mains coming into Southeast in one location. They come in as separate pipes. It's like 19 lanes of a highway converging into like 5 lanes. And so obviously when the large pipe kicks on, the other ones back up. And so separating those all out would have, one, stopped any backfeeding, and this would have also put in redundant valves and all of that stuff. So this is a much needed project. We are seeking federal funding for this, or state funding, because this is a huge improvement that the Headworks really needs at Southeast. But right now we probably have no money left after this incident. And then finishing the Kelseyville tertiary study, and awarding the tank replacement project. There's 2 more tanks in Soda Bay that are still the redwood tanks that we need to finish, and Scott's been working on the bid documents for that. He had to, because the bid documents had all 4 tanks on them, and so now the state wants us to break those out, so he's been working on that. And we will continue to monitor our sewer spill data, RSL wrap miles, line cleaning miles, smoke testing, the level 1 manholes, manhole spot checks, and the grease trap inspections. All of those are huge things that need to happen to properly maintain our collection system and all of our wastewater systems. That is a key focus of our department at this point. We are trying to be proactive instead of reactive. And as you all know, our infrastructure is very old, has not been, maintained at the level that maybe it should have. And so this is going to be a heavy lift to get us to that point. It's a lot of dollars, and we're in the process of evaluating all of that. We'll be seeking funding. You'll see stuff coming back in the rate studies of, similar to like Middletown and other areas where those rates had to go way up to get things fixed. And so all of these will help us identify where our real problem areas are, prioritize those. If we get the funding for the cameraing the Southeast lines, that will it will automatically, if we hire that out, the CCTV, a crew comes in, they'll clean the lines, and then they send the cameras through, and then it automatically feeds into a computerized database of our system that then will highlight for us using AI and other technologies of exactly where we need to fix stuff and create a prioritization list for us. Something that would take us probably 10 years to do, based on our staffing and the fact that we are so responsive at this point instead of being proactive. And then we'll continue finishing up the standard operating procedures. So that's what we have been doing and what we plan on doing.
Bring it back to the board. Are there any questions at this point? Go ahead, Supervisor Sabatier.
I'm not going to ask any questions, just like I haven't asked any questions for most others.
I think I only spoke up for the child support services just because it provided something that I had requested the year before. I will be emailing all my questions for all different departments, this one included. And there's a lot on my mind regarding all of the information that was provided, and I think it's probably best that I just not say anything. But I do hope that the board is paying attention to the issue that the data provides in front of us. I mean, add it all up, we have just until between 3 or 4 years, 1.5 million gallons of spill versus 15,000, which is the next highest in Northwest. And so where we place our dollars are important, and I am not enamored at all about this idea of a 218, which includes the emergency. I think the emergency is a side effect of other issues, not something that people should be paying for eternity. We're already the most expensive sewer, and that makes no sense to me already. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Anything further? None?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Supervisor
You
Hahn.
had mentioned sorry. You had mentioned cutting the roots out of the lines when there's blockages. If there's roots inside the lines and we cut them out, is sewage able to leak out through those? Because the roots have infiltrated the lines. So should those lines be replaced rather than just cutting the roots out?
In an ideal world, they would be, all of that would be removed, and then the lines would be slip lined or replaced. So they're all going onto a list of these are the things that need to be replaced. The northwest and southeast are the primary ones that have root intrusion and a lot of I&I. There's been a lot of work done in Middletown after the fires and stuff, so that system is a stronger system at this point, as well as Kelseyville. Kelseyville is a much smaller system, and they have been able to keep up with that and maintain it better. But yes, that means that it could potentially exclude out into the trenches, but not something that you would expect that it would like leave the actual sewer trench that it's already in. But it also means that the lines are compromised because
That's what I'm getting
you
at,
know,
yeah.
there's literally holes from the roots going in there.
Right, and I was
And-
asking, why are we not replacing them?
And it's all a funding thing. That's the answer to all of our issues right now is how much money we need to do this. But as they go through, they will identify these. There used to be other technologies chemicals that were allowed to be used where they could go along where the
Trees are.
where the trees are and put this root blocking stuff, which is now illegal. So now we're left with fighting the root intrusion, and yes, we will have to either slip line the lines or replace them.
And the Middletown system also is much newer than our Clear Lake.
Yeah, but just because it's newer doesn't mean that we should ignore it either. Because
No, I'm not saying
we need
that.
to
I'm
make sure
saying
we're maintaining it.
prioritizing
Yes.
Where the bigger issues are.
Yes. But we look at them as, all separate areas and, try and maintain all of them. Just southeast and northwest are much more massive and much older and have far more. Southeast is by far the system that needs the most.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And not seeing anything further, so we'll thank you for the presentation today. And we will move on to our treasurer tax collector.
All right, good afternoon, board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. So this is a presentation for the Treasurer Tax Collector's Office for our 2025 accomplishments and 2026 points of emphasis. I'll start off again just by highlighting our office has 3 different divisions. Treasury, which deals with the county's banking and finances, investments, managing the treasury pool, tax, which is everything from property tax to cannabis tax, occupancy tax, that entire range. And then there's the collections division, which deals primarily with court-ordered debt. That's all the criminal and traffic cases in the county. But we also do handle collections for other county departments to help them recover the revenue owed. So we'll start off with the slides here. These are some of our highlights from the previous year. We did complete our transition from US Bank to BMO for custodial banking services. That was a big lift for our office. It's a lot of work to change banks. So we remain with Wells Fargo on our sort of daily banking side, but now it's from BMO where we operate our investment program. So we're still resolving some of the final reporting issues we're having, trying to get everything reconciled and squared away, but as of about 6 weeks ago, we're up and running with that. We did launch a short-term rental software program, Rentalscape. This was really helpful in our enforcement efforts. We've had a great deal of success. It scours the internet, all the different websites from Airbnb to Vrbo, other newer sites too, like HipCamp, for instance. And it helps us identify the location of these short-term rentals. With this, our revenues have definitely increased this last year. It went from 932,000 to 1.3 million. Some of that is because of delinquency. I want to say about half that increase the last time I looked was based on delinquent debt. So the good part about this program, we're recovering delinquent money that's owed to the county, but we're also hopefully boosting revenue into the future, which is one of our major goals. We did implement electronic payment options for multiple departments. We've been working with individual departments on their various software programs to launch these. At some point after we go live with the new ERP Workday, which I think was mentioned by the auditor's office earlier, we do hope to offer a third-party payment option for the county where any department can use it, but we are quite a long ways off from that. There's a lot of other things that need to fall into place. So at this time, we've just been onboarding various departments. We can't really onboard anyone else until after we launch Workday, so because now we're fully into getting the system ready for that July 1 launch, at least at this time. We did implement a third-party collections program for court collections and probation cases. That's been very successful for us and has helped us recover a lot more funds. That's combined with the tax intercept program. Last year was the first year that we were able to launch the tax intercept program, which allows us to seize and intercept those income tax refunds from defendants and others that owe money under these programs. That has helped us sort of buck the trend. The state has taken away, I think you may have heard child support mention this earlier, the state has taken away a lot of the tools that we previously had to collect. So a lot of agencies are sliding backwards. We actually were able to increase our revenues, which is partially because we didn't have this program before. So this has been critical and has helped offsetting some of the new challenges that we're facing. We continued tax sales, and we also established an agreement with a third-party collections agency for unsecured property taxes. I'm sure all of you have probably heard about those letters going out, but it is a mandatory duty that we have from the state under the current structure. We do have to make an effort to collect on these, so that's underway. Going forward, we are taking action. Well, I think we're taking enforcement action sooner, you could say. We're keeping the cases in-house for a couple of years. We're going to try to work them ourselves, and then they'll go to the outside collections. So hopefully going forward, we don't have the volume that we're seeing right now. What I want to point out is just this has been a very difficult operation for our staff to do. We've been upgrading all of these programs and trying to implement all these new procedures, and at the same time, we have to maintain our regular operations. So I really want to commend them because we've been able to do both, and there's definitely no way we could have done it without them. So this is our points of emphasis going forward in this new year. We want to complete some various software transitions. We still have legacy systems across our divisions. So it's not just the Workday ERP for us. Whether it's treasury, tax, or collections, we do have a sort of that hodgepodge of systems. We'd like to get away from that. We want to consolidate into newer software so that everything is more streamlined. So that's a major goal. We also want to do that while some of the staff that has working knowledge of these programs is still around. So that's important for us in our time frame. I would note that we've continued to grow the county's investment program. I know you get regular reports on that, so I don't really want to take too much time. But those figures just give an idea of where we've come with this. That back in fiscal year 21-22, we were at 1.6 million. That was sort of the first year we had the program up and running. This last fiscal year, we hit 19.1 million. So it's been a great deal of growth. We report on a cash basis. So again, I don't see any growth expanding past this year. I would think that you're going to be seeing the peak here very soon, or perhaps we have seen the peak. We're continuing to modernize and upgrade the deferred compensation plan, which needed some attention. So we have 2 providers, so that's a bit of work. There's a lot of statutory changes that we're trying to implement. Again, it's hard because we have to implement this transition in Workday while at the same time all these new rules are going into effect. So it's another piece that we have to manage. We're continuing to develop the cannabis tax program, audits, legislative updates. We brought that new ordinance forward. There's going to be some other changes needed, so you'll continue to see action there. We're going to continue to monitor impacts to court collections at both the state and local level. The state has been really aggressive in a lot of the changes they've made. They've removed a lot of the fines and fees, and they've, like I said, removed a lot of the tools that we had. So you have the situation where there's a lot of debt out there that ends up really not being very recoverable. So this is definitely a major issue, and there's not great solutions, but tax intercept, some of those other ones are where we've headed, and we are having success. We're continuing development of unsecured property tax. We already went into that, how we're going to kind of change our structure about working it in-house and then sending it out. Finally, there's the transition to the Workday ERP, which is, another job and a half, and again has to happen at the same time as everything else. So there are a few other challenges I want to touch on that aren't on the slide that I mentioned. Since it's a governance workshop, this does impact our operations. Staffing is hard for us. We're in office. There's only 9 staff under me. We have 1 out on leave, and unfortunately, we're losing someone else at the end of the week. He's been here for about 5 years. We've been able to cross-train him in the department. He's really taken on huge responsibilities, backup in a lot of areas, lead in others, and he's been hired out by Napa County. So their Treasurer Tax Collector's Office is taking him. But I would point out the reason he's leaving is that he did find out that he was gonna have a baby. He was starting a family, and he could not afford to stay here because of the benefits. He had planned on remaining here. But because our health insurance is structured so differently than other counties and other agencies, we really can't retain anyone. So I just want to point this out because I do have a bit of a problem that the majority of my staff is in this middle career range where we do tend to see people having families or starting families, potentially getting married or having a child. Because our insurance is so expensive, like 3 to 4 times the cost of other agencies around us or other counties, I don't really know how to deal with that, going forward. I'm not quite sure what to do because these positions are generally filled by people in that stage of their life. And I know in the past we've been advised to tell people that, like to have the spouse get a job at, schools or another agency, somewhere where they can get coverage. But that is really hard for us to do. And it does put us in a weird situation where suddenly people's personal lives and their background is presenting itself into our employment structure. So I would encourage the county, I know it's come up before, but to find some way to address this, because the increases that went into effect in January now were huge. I mean, they outpaced, if you're on a family plan, the increase was probably 2 to 3 times whatever COLA you received. So I don't really see a path forward. I don't really know what to do. I've lost one person specifically to this. I may lose others due to their own uncertainty because people can't afford to stay here for, even a month or two if their spouse were to lose their coverage. So I'm not here today to offer a solution, but I'm here to identify it as a very real problem. This is a major impact for my office. Losing this employee after all this, a lot of work and development is really frustrating, especially when he's from here, went to college, came back with the intent of building a career in our office. So anyways, I want to bring that to your attention. Another challenge that we do face that I don't quite know how to explain that well are the closures. A lot of the office closures are confusing for my office. We often, when people have business at one county office or another, let's say they only have business at 2, often it's us and that other department. A lot of departments, it seems more than the past, do close to the public for various trainings, and we understand that. We want to close as well. But all the closures are happening, it's seemingly more frequently and at different times. There's no coordination of date or times between departments. And it used to be sometimes departments used to come to the board, or some of them did, to request the closure, but doesn't seem to be the case anymore. So we're having trouble figuring out, for instance, if we can't reach a department or if the public's saying they can't, whether that's because they're closed for a training or, they're just busy. That happens in my office. But I guess a thought for the board is if there's a day that we could designate, or certain dates of the year, that departments could close to the public so that we could all do training at the same time, that would be really helpful. Because unfortunately right now, my office often ends up stuck in the middle, because when people can't get to the other office they're here for, because they typically have business with us, we end up fielding that and trying to solve their problems. I guess, as we mentioned, we already have some staffing issues, so anything that we could do to maybe put us all on the same schedule and offer us all that opportunity would be greatly appreciated. So other than that, I'm off my soapbox, sorry, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Anything from the board at this point? Supervisor Owen, looks like.
Oh, you know what, go ahead. I was just making a note, and then I'll get back to it.
Okay, I'm not seeing anyone else. So.
Those were great suggestions on the specified training days. I think that would probably behoove many. The tax default properties, I know that's something we're still working on. One of the things I had thought about, and maybe this isn't the right time to bring it up, is to bring it into our preview within the county so that we can do something you guys don't, it's not going to continue to cost us, as in take those. The healthcare issue, is that a county-wide retention problem?
It's not exactly countywide. There is at least one bargaining unit that has the standard type of insurance coverage that you see in our other local agencies or the other counties. But the other units and the unrepresented employees all share the same structure. So it's I believe it's everyone except the sheriff's office.
Okay, all right. So, and then, so at a later time, we can maybe talk about some solutions.
Thank you.
Anything further? I'm not seeing any at this point, so we'll thank you for providing that presentation today.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to our last presentation of the day from our Water Resources Director.
Hello everyone, it's Pawan Upadhyay, Lake County Water Resources Director. So I will just give you a brief overview of the programs we have and then dive into our presentation. So as a brief overview of the things we manage is the lake bed management, which includes overseeing the permitting, leasing, and lakebed maintenance, which also includes aids to the navigation, flood control and levee maintenance for designated flood zone assessments, operation and maintenance of Adobe and Highland Spring reservoirs, management and oversight of Middle Creek Restoration Project, management and oversight of the Highland Spring Park and Recreational Area, and Lake County Watershed Protection District is also the NPDES permit holder for the stormwater management. We provide invasive species management and integrated aquatic plant management program, which is also part of the NPDES permit compliance. Fish habitat protection, Clear Lake water quality monitoring, urban and stream storm water and post-fire water quality monitoring, groundwater management, watershed management and hydrological studies depending on where it's needed, and public outreach and education. Yeah, so diving into the presentation, the accomplishments for 2025 is we launched the first year of the Community Science Hitch Survey Program, which was well received, and it is also encourages citizen science engagement. Updated county code for vessel inspection to strengthen the newly emerging golden mussel thread. Maintain quagga mussel inspection and boater outreach at public rams. Ongoing tribal partnership on hitch tagging, rescues, and habitat restoration. Continued the acquisition of parcel within the Middle Creek flood damage and ecosystem restoration project. Remove debris and navigational hazard from Clear Lake, improving public safety and water quality. Some of the grant which we received last year was the Stream Gauge Improvement Program, which is the CALCIP, to continue the Clover Creek bypass at Elk Mountain Road in Upper Lake. So this was one of the monitoring station which was discontinued by USGS, and this grant will continue it for another 3 years. Coal Creek habitat improvement, and I think Supervisor Pasca and Supervisor Rasmussen have been involved in that. So that was another part like which has been consistent issue of localized flooding and also a major barrier for the Clear Lake hitch. So we did got a grant to improve it, and also we did some work during the summertime to improve the condition. And then another important project we got funding for is the LG Sonic buoy project. And it includes 2 funding sources, which is one from the HUD and the other is from the Blue Ribbon Committee. Yeah, that's also in like its final stage, so hopefully this summer, before this summer, it should be deployed. 2 other important projects we worked on is the sediment and vegetation removal. One is on the Alley Creek at Pitney Lane, Upper Lake, and the other one is at the Coal Creek at Clark Drive, Kelseyville. So some of the data point and metrics is total number of lakebed permits application issued was 33 during the last year. Total number of violation and abatement is we sent out 25 notices and 4 enforcement action was taken. Total percentage of the lakebed lease we have received is about 92%. Total billable account for the lakebed is about 1,689, and the total amount billed was 304,000 roughly. Total amount due from citation is $100 at this point. Total number of resident and non-residents quagga stickers sold, and the data is up to October 31st, is 12,283.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Supervisor Hahn.
Was that 12,000 for 2025? Because it stated total. Was
Yeah,
that just
2025
Okay.
till October 31st.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
And we don't sell quite often after October anyway, so I think that it might be small increase after that.
Okay, thank you.
So some other data points are the dump sites. So we cleaned up about 13 dump site near the tributaries or the creeks. Number of hitch-related activities, which include participation in meeting, conferences, field work, and the hitch tagging, which our staff is part of, is 164. In 2025 district, and I think this was one of the metric requested in last year governance workshop, that we report on the number of hitch during our survey. So in 2025, in our internal district survey, we observed 266 adult Clear Lake hitch compared to 23 which was observed in 2024. And then the community science program, like which I talked about in the beginning. So that last year was the first year of it, and in total, the total number of observed adult Clear Lake hitch was 3,347. The number of grant which we manage from the Lake County Watershed Protection District is about 25 active grants, which totals up about $24,200,000 in total. Total number of public outreach efforts over the last year was about 15, which also includes the conferences and some of the field work. For 2026, so we're gonna continue to provide the golden quagga and zebra mussel outreach and the voter education. Another goal is to have the LG Sonic project on ground. It's mostly waiting on the environmental clearance at this point. Continue the second year of community science hitch survey program, which is also kicking off next month. Finalize the CNRA contract for 2025 grants award and initiate implementation. So these are the grants which you might have observed, like some of the funding I had for the board approval early this year or end of 2025. So these are the funds which we have received from the Blue Ribbon Committee from last round of funding. It includes like multiple district projects. The another priority is to begin the 5-year periodic the work on the 5-year periodic evaluation for the Big Valley GSA, which is the groundwater management, which is another state mandate we have to comply with. Continue work with multiple agencies for creek vegetation removal and habitat restoration. Enhance maintenance effort on all watershed protection district facilities. Continue to maintain lake bed structure, debris removal, and to ensure safe boating environment on Clear Lake. And for the debris removal, I think we have that abatement project which we were really hoping to move forward with. We did everything on our side, but we didn't receive any successful bid on that. So our plan is to change a little bit and then go one structure at a time. So I think that would be part of the next year work plan. And another important thing is to continue pursuing funding for the ongoing project as well as some other department priorities we have. For 2026 data point and metrics, it would be, I think, somewhat similar to this year, which is total number of lake bed permit application issued, total number of violation and abatements, total percentage of lake bed lease payment received, total amount due from citation, total number of residents and non-residents quagga stickers sold, dump sites cleanup near or in tributaries, total number of hitch related activities, number of grant managed, total funding value of all the grants, and the number of public outreach efforts. Yeah, thank you. I think that's all I have for today. Yeah.
Anything for Supervisor Crandall?
Yeah, you're talking about levee maintenance, just wanted to touch base on some of that. We recently went through the whole situation with the biochar, as you remember, and the lease for that. I know we're gonna be looking at that in the future, But I also wanted to highlight and see if there's room for the maintenance that's in that area. If you notice, there's a lot of vegetation.
Yeah, so I think that's the Alley Creek cleanup was part of that near the Pitney Lane Bridge, and we are planning to do another round this year, which will be extending it, and then another project we have is that Caltrans mitigation grant.
Right.
So we are probably trying to kickstart work on that this fall as well.
Okay.
We might combine like the remaining work from the last year, which happened at the Alley Creek and the Caltrans, and move forward that project.
That was my next question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that covered?
Yeah.
Supervisor Owen?
I'm sure that there's some people watching today that are concerned about the Hidden Valley levee, and we had went down during the summer in September and checked it out, and there was a lot of erosion. And I know that the creek does need to be cleaned, and I know I'd sent you another letter a couple weeks ago. That's just something I do every few months, just to keep everybody abreast of it. And so I just want to make sure that's on your radar.
Yeah, it is, and I'm doing my research on like how we move forward on that. We are working on it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, it's there by Pitty Creek Bridge in the roundabout, all the way both sides of the bridge. Actually, there's a lot of erosion going on, and it's actually eroding away the levee there by Hidden Valley. So it's kind of a safety issue.
Yeah, and also I think it is also the matter of like who's has responsibility where, and there has been some past studies which has been done and to delineate that, and I'm doing my research on that, and I will probably reach out to you soon.
And I do know that there has been Epidendio, for one, that wanted to go in to do some of the restoration and cleaning out, and they were blocked by Fish and Wildlife. So we have Pawan working on that, the Fish and Wildlife permits in that area, because that seems to be something that people are having a hard time getting through.
Yeah, definitely. I think we can definitely coordinate that thing and move forward on that.
Thank you.
And then I just had a couple things for the benefit of the public, because the questions are still out there on, assuming we're going to be moving forward this year on the flood study out in the Scotts Creek watershed.
Yes, so we already have a contractor selected for the bigger study we are doing in the Scotts Valley, and then the flood on the valley, that would be added to the same contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I appreciate you mentioned the dump sites in the creek. That's a big deal for me. I know we have a very massive one that's in a spawning creek that we are working on getting a final date to hopefully get that cleaned up. I'm not sure where we're exactly at. We don't have to get into all the details, but just mentioning that those are extremely harmful to our environment and also getting into the lake.
Yeah, we are like making plans for that. That's a big one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll come together.
Anything further? It appears none. So we're going to thank you for presenting today, and
Thank you.
have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Pawan.
Yeah, thanks.
And with that, we have concluded all parts of the governance workshop. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up to the public. If there are any comments from any part of item 6, which started back at Vision 28 through this last presentation. Go ahead. State your name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. First of all, I just want to extend my thanks to the board and to the staff. This was a really informative report and governance. I do appreciate the consistency of the presentations. And as a citizen, it's really insightful to see just how hard people work in order to support our county, and I think that needs to be promoted well beyond this chambers, and I hope we can do that in the future. A couple observations, just really quick. Again, so much was covered, and I can't do it all in 3 minutes. Regarding the sewage spill that was discussed during the special districts, I may have missed it, but it seems like the calculation of what was spilled and how to get, the math there, it seems that they were taking credit for spill avoidance, and I'm not sure if I missed that, but I think it'd be worth taking a look at that. I mean, 2.9 million gallons, if you have pumpers there to avoid additional spill, I don't know if that should add or subtract to that. The other thing, real quick, having to travel through Highland Springs Recreation Area to and from virtually every day for the last quarter century. Margot and I do have a fondness for that park. I do believe that a serious consideration of transferring the park aspect of it to public services is a win-win, not only for public services and for the people, but also for water resources in Lake County Watershed Protection District. The public services has a skill of treating it like a park, and I'm a big fan of that park. The other thing I just want to point out real quick, regarding the PRAs that were discussed. Marg and I have been tangentially involved in a few cases directly involved in PRAs. And there has been a remarked increase, but taking it from a user experience perspective, with the advent of OpenGov, the way the PRAs are being managed is dramatically different than it used to be. Before, we would open up a PRA and we would get information back and it wouldn't be quite correct. There would be missing attachments, missing documents, things like that. And used to be able to work with the county under the same PRA to get it made right. And it might take 3 or 4 or 5 attempts. Now, under OpenGov, you get your package, they immediately close a PRA, you have essentially the same issues, but now you got to open up another PRA, and a third, and a fourth, and a fifth, until hopefully you get it right. So I'm confident after the nearly 24 PRAs that we've known about and seen it happen over and over again, not just with us, but with others, that is a main contributor to the reason why there's such an increase. And I'll thank you for your time, but again, I think it was a good day.
Thank you, appreciate it. Do we have any further in the room? If you could state your name for the record.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and Supervisors. Margot Kambara. I have a few questions and suggestions grouped by department. First, Admin Office HR. Please consider adding the following 2 programs under 2026 points of emphasis. First, an internship program, such as the one resumed by the county last year. And second, develop a Grow Your Own program as a tool to recruit county employees from the community. Secondly, for admin office in general, consider adding as a 2026 point of emphasis key Board of Supervisors ad hoc committee support assignments, such as a county energy policy development and the Rent Stabilization Solutions Committee. For the Sheriff's Office, consider adding a metric for resolving calls without arrest. For example, number of calls that end in mental or behavioral health services, referral, or assistance. This type of metric captures the effort of the Sheriff's Office that serves the community good that does not result in arrest. For public services, consider adding the following 2026 point of emphasis. Develop electrification and/or green energy plan for county-owned facilities. This effort can help reduce and control the county's energy costs and reduce the county's carbon footprint. This activity could apply to facilities planning / design on slide 130 of the presentation deck posted for this meeting. For water resources, I have a question. On slide 19 of today's presentation deck, water resources shows a reduction in the cannabis cultivation and business tax revenue. How will this impact the department's work and ability to meet its federal and state mandated activity? I suggest that if cannabis cultivation and business tax revenue allocations be reduced to departments, then consider that departments state the case for their share of the tax revenue, similar to a grant proposal exercise. And finally, consider adding a point of emphasis depending on the response to the following question. As part of Clear Lake restoration, couldn't or shouldn't water resources be working with BLM to curb or stop soil erosion from Cow Mountain into Scotts Creek, which feeds into Clear Lake? And if this effort is underway, where can the public obtain updates on progress. Thank you for your consideration, and thank you for putting together all this information for the public. It's been most enlightening.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in the room? Seeing none, we'll move to online. Betsy Kahn will then meet you. You can go ahead and state your name for the record, please. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Betsy Kahn, Upper Lake. I would just like to suggest that the county administration, the Board of Supervisors, and the public have not had a detailed report on compliance with the NPDES program, which is comprehensive and includes impacts to water resources of all types since 2013, I believe. And even though the answers to 91 questions in the compliance permit are available online to those who are brave enough to go through the state system, it would be helpful for everyone, including all of you, to understand all the different parts of that compliance permit and how we are complying with the requirements. It does touch on all those issues, including what was mentioned earlier, just about the Scotts Valley flooding, stormwater, soil erosion, etc. Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. Do we have any further online, Carolyn? We do not. With that, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment at 3:48 and adjourn the meeting.
Wait, we have one comment.
What was that? Oh, sorry, I didn't see you.
We're
not adjourned.
I apologize. I thought you had seen it. So I always appreciate learning about where we are and what we're doing. I think there's a more efficient way to maybe do this, just my personal opinion, and I'd love to have those conversations. But it's really hard to talk about data points when the dates aren't the same as the previous years. A lot of people were cut off as of December 1st. Some people were cut off as of November. Some people were cut off mid-December. Like, it needs to be a comparable apples to apples from the years past. And also the data points, it's okay to add some, but if you're going to delete some, there needs to be an explanation as to why you're not using those data points anymore. So I was looking back and forth between the last 3 years. The first year, it was more of a, here are the data points we're going to start using. Last year was, here's the first data points. And this year, some of them were verbatim what it was the year past, and some of them were just completely different, and some of them the dates didn't match. And so I think if we're going to do this, there has to be a great value to it. And if we're not doing apples to apples, I don't know that we're getting the true value of understanding how are we doing this year versus last year in order to enhance the conversations that we have. And so to me, that's whoever is organizing this, the criteria needs to be the same for all departments. Because again, some departments were doing fiscal year, some departments were doing calendar year. It was just kind of all over the place. And I just think that we need to do better in order to really be able to compare, or else we're hearing numbers, we're saying yay, we're saying maybe better, but it's hard to tell if we don't really know what the difference is. So, final comment.
Thank you, and I apologize for missing that. Anything further? Go ahead, Supervisor Pyska.
Well, I appreciate the improvements that we've made year over year. I remember many years ago where we started with these governance workshops and getting to this point. I appreciate the improvements. And I know a lot of the department heads have to put a lot of time into this. Their teams support them through this. I appreciate it, and I feel like every year it does get better and these reports are stronger. So I just want to give all my appreciation to everybody that worked so hard to deliver this for us for this full day. So thank you.
All right. Again, thank you for everybody for being here today and to our departments. And we will go ahead and now adjourn our meeting.